The afternoon sun blazed over Willow Creek Estates as I pulled my unmarked Dodge Charger into my driveway, the engine's rumble fading into the quiet suburban air. I just finished a brutal 12-hour shift at the county sheriff's office, and all I wanted was to grab a cold beer, fire up the grill, and forget about the chaos of the day. My uniform shirt clung to my back, damp with sweat, and I could already taste that first sip of freedom. I stepped out of the vehicle, stretching my arms above my head, when I noticed her, Margaret Pemberton, the HOA president, the woman who'd made it her personal mission to turn our peaceful neighborhood into her own personal kingdom. She stood 3 houses down, clipboard in hand, her perfectly coiffed silver hair not moving an inch despite the breeze. Her eyes locked onto my car like a hawk spotting prey. I groaned internally. Not today, Margaret. Please, not today. But Margaret had other plans. She marched toward me with the determination of a military general, her sensible heels clicking against the pavement like a countdown to disaster. Behind her scurried Linda Chun, the HOA secretary, looking like she'd rather be anywhere else. "Excuse me." Margaret's voice cut through the air sharp enough to slice steel. "You there?" I turned slowly, my jaw already clenching. "Yes, Margaret." Her eyes narrowed as she consulted her clipboard, clearly not recognizing me out of uniform. I'd moved into the neighborhood only 6 months ago, and we'd crossed paths maybe twice. Both times I'd been in civilian clothes. Both times she'd been too busy barking orders to actually look at people's faces. This vehicle, she tapped her pen against her clipboard, is in violation of Willow Creek Estates Code Section 7, Subsection 4, Paragraph 2. All vehicles parked in driveways must be family sedans, luxury vehicles, or SUVs of approved makes and models. This muscle car is absolutely unacceptable. I blinked. "You're serious right now?" "Deadly serious." Margaret drew herself up to her full 5'3" height. "This is a respectable neighborhood. We have standards. We have rules. And this vehicle screams law enforcement, which brings down property values and attracts the wrong element." Linda shifted uncomfortably behind her. "Margaret, maybe we should enforce our bylaws, Linda. That's what we should do." Margaret's attention snapped back to me. "I'll give you 48 hours to remove this eyesore from the premises, or you'll face a fine of $500 per day." Something hot and tight coiled in my chest. I'd dealt with criminals, domestic disputes, and armed standoffs without losing my cool, but this woman was testing every ounce of my professional composure. "This is my personal vehicle," I said slowly, keeping my voice level. "I can park it wherever I want on my own property." Margaret's laugh was like breaking glass. "Your property? You rent here, young man, and renters follow the same rules as everyone else. Actually, stricter rules. The board decided last month that renters need to maintain even higher standards to prove they're worthy of this community." My hands curled into fists at my sides. "I own this house, purchased it 6 months ago, and I've read the bylaws cover to cover. There's nothing about approved vehicle makes and models. Then you read an outdated version." Margaret's smile was pure poison. "We amended the bylaws 3 weeks ago at our monthly meeting. It was properly noticed and voted on. I never got a notice. Not my problem." She made a show of writing something on her clipboard. 48 hours. Clock's ticking. She turned to leave, and that's when I saw it. The glint of metal in her other hand. A key. No, a collection of keys on a ring. And one of them looked suspiciously like a universal car key. "What are those?" I asked, pointing. Margaret's smile widened. "As HOA president, I have master keys to all common areas and, for emergencies, resident vehicles. It's in the bylaws you claim to have read so carefully." My blood ran cold. "You have keys to people's cars?" "For emergencies only, of course. Towing purposes, snow removal, that sort of thing. All perfectly legal and disclosed in the purchase agreements." She jangled the keys. "Since you're being difficult, I'll just use my access to move this vehicle myself to the visitor parking area. Consider it a courtesy. You are not touching my car. It's not your choice." Margaret moved toward the Charger, key extended. Linda grabbed her arm. "Margaret, I really don't think. Linda, let go of me right now. Margaret shook her off and approached my vehicle. This is HOA business. I stepped between her and the car. Ma'am, I'm telling you right now, do not attempt to enter my vehicle. Or what? You'll call the police? Margaret laughed. That grating sound again. I know the sheriff personally. We play bridge together. I'm sure he'll side with me on this matter of community standards. My eyebrow raised. You know Sheriff Patterson? Of course. David and I go way back. She puffed up with pride. I have connections, young man. So unless you want real trouble, I suggest you move aside. This was getting too good. I crossed my arms. I'm not moving. Margaret's face turned an impressive shade of crimson. Fine, fine. If you won't respect the law, I'll make you respect it. She pulled out her phone and dialed 911. Yes, hello? I need police at 447 Meadowbrook Lane immediately. I have a hostile individual refusing to comply with HOA regulations and threatening me when I attempt to access a vehicle that's in violation of community standards. She paused, listening. No, I'm not in immediate danger, but this man is being very aggressive. He's large, intimidating, and I feel unsafe. Linda looked like she wanted to melt into the pavement. A few neighbors had emerged from their houses, drawn by the commotion. I recognized Tom and Sarah Mitchell from across the street and old Mr. Chun from next door. They all wore expressions ranging from confusion to barely suppressed amusement. I waited. Let her play this out. This was going to be entertaining. They're sending someone right away, Margaret announced smugly. I hope you're ready to explain yourself to real authorities. Looking forward to it, I said calmly. We stood there in tense silence for about 6 minutes. Margaret kept checking her watch and shooting me victorious glances. Linda looked like she was praying for the earth to swallow her whole. The neighbors inched closer, sensing drama. Finally, a patrol car rolled up. Deputy Jake Morrison stepped out, and I had to bite my lip to keep from grinning. Jake was one of my best deputies, and the look on his face when he saw me was priceless. Sheriff. Jake's confusion was evident. I got a call about a hostile. He stopped mid-sentence as Margaret practically launched herself at him. Finally, Officer, this man is refusing to move his inappropriate vehicle and has threatened me when I try to exercise my legal right as HOA president to relocate it. I want him cited immediately. Jake looked at Margaret, then at me, then back at Margaret. Ma'am, do you know who this is? Some renter who thinks he can break community rules with impunity. I've already explained that I know Sheriff Patterson personally, so you should know I have authority here. Ma'am, Jake's voice was carefully controlled, professional. This is Sheriff Patterson. The silence that fell over the scene was deafening. Margaret's face went through an extraordinary journey of emotions. Confusion, disbelief, dawning horror, then a sickly pale that clashed with her earlier crimson. That's impossible. David is 56 years old with gray hair and... That's the old sheriff, Jake explained, clearly enjoying this. He retired 8 months ago. This is Sheriff Ethan Patterson. No relation. He was elected in the special election and took office 6 months ago. I pulled out my badge from my pocket and held it up. Evening, Margaret. Still want to use that master key on a law enforcement vehicle? Margaret's mouth opened and closed like a fish. But you never said, you never asked. You were too busy threatening me and trying to illegally access my vehicle. I turned to Jake. Deputy Morrison, what's the law on unauthorized access to vehicles? Jake flipped open his notepad, playing along beautifully. Unauthorized entry or attempted entry to a vehicle is criminal trespass, Sheriff. Class a misdemeanor in this county. And claiming to have master keys to residents' vehicles without their explicit written consent? That's fraud, possibly harassment. The bylaws, Margaret started weakly, have no legal standing to override state vehicle laws. I finished. You can't contract away someone's property rights, Margaret. And any bylaw claiming you can enter residents' vehicles is not only unenforceable, it's illegal. Linda finally found her voice. I told the board that was a terrible idea. I voted against it. I have it documented. Margaret shot her a betrayed look before turning back to me. Her voice came out small, shaky. I was just trying to maintain standards. Property values. We've worked so hard to make this a prestigious community. By harassing homeowners and making illegal threats? I stepped closer, letting my full 6'2" frame remind her exactly who she'd been pushing around. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to go home and review those bylaws. Any provisions about accessing residents' vehicles get removed immediately. Any provisions about approved vehicle makes and models get removed. And you're going to send a formal apology to every resident in this community. And if I don't, then I file charges for attempted vehicle trespass, harassment, and fraud. I contact every homeowner in this community and inform them their HOA president has been claiming illegal authority over their personal property. And I start a formal investigation into every decision your board has made in the past year. I let that sink in. Your choice. Margaret's shoulder sagged. The clipboard slipped from her fingers, clattering on the pavement. I'll call an emergency board meeting. You do that. I nodded to Jake. Thanks for the response time, Deputy. Any time, Sheriff. Jake tipped his hat and headed back to his patrol car, but not before shooting me a grin. As Margaret retreated with Linda scurrying behind her, the gathered neighbors burst into applause. Tom Mitchell called out, "About time someone stood up to her." I waved them off, suddenly exhausted all over again. But as I watched Margaret disappear into her house, her reign of terror visibly crumbling, I felt something loosen in my chest. That night, sitting on my porch with that long-awaited beer, I watched the sun set over Willow Creek Estates. My inappropriate Charger sat proudly in the driveway, gleaming in the golden light. My phone buzzed. A text from Linda. Emergency bylaws meeting tomorrow. Margaret stepping down as president. Thank you. I smiled and took a long drink. Sometimes justice tastes like cold beer and sweet, sweet karma. The neighborhood, I suspected, was about to become a much friendlier place.